The Joe Rogan Experience.
Was that one of the reasons why it was treated with so much skepticism?
Because I mean, no one doubts the existence of the skeleton. At least, no one who you should take.
What do they doubt?
They doubt.
I'm sorry,
there's a couple.
There's so many things that are so specific, like the carbon dating of the upper and lower layers, the fact that you have so many bones, the fact that they're not repeating, the fact that it's clearly some sort of a primate, and that you've put all this stuff together and reconstructed the skull. And I mean, what is the controversy?
The controversy, there's a couple of things. I mean, you could talk for a long time about this, but I guess one point of controversy is it indeed a member of the human family? And, as I said before, you get further back in time, and the things that tell you it's a member of the human family become more subtle, like these canine teeth, for example. The bipedality is another one. But, there's, a great deal of skepticism in the field about, there's people who I talk to who tell you, who doubt that any of these early species that have been identified as hominins or early members of the human family, they doubt that any of them really are, or it's just unknowable. So there's kind of like this I don't know, almost in some people, this almost like nihilistic view that you can really ever know. That's one. But I do think that has changed. The validation of Artie as a member of the human family, the human lineage, is. I think there is a growing number of people who are accepting it, and there's some people with a lot of outside people who have basically endorsed what the research team had said, whether it's a direct ancestor or like, one of your extinct aunt, uncle, whether maybe it's not your grandfather, but maybe it's like your aunt, uncle, we may never know that. But, anyway, that's one point of controversy. Is it in the human lineage? Another one is, the arguments that the discovery team has made about what it reveals about the last common ancestor of humans and apes. And, like, for example, we were talking before about this model of a chimp-like common ancestor of humans and African apes. And, the Artie team, who spent 15 years studying this thing before they announced it to the world, they believed and strenuously argued that this skeleton shows you that the common ancestor of humans and the African apes was in fact not like a chimp, not nowhere near as chimp-like as everyone thought, because there's no vestige of knuckle walking. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that gets into sort of like some anatomical, very esoteric anatomical stuff. So if you read the book, if you're interested, because it gets into to all that. But so anyway, so that's part of the controversy. So there is a sort of subset of the critics who have come to accept Artie as indeed a member of the human family. So they say, yeah, they're right. They placed it correctly in the human family tree, but they are not yet convinced that it falsifies this idea of a chimp-like ancestor. Their argument would be, well, sure, in the ways that Artie may have still descended from this chimp-like ancestor, but it evolved these new adaptations that sort of erase those from its anatomy. So that's one element of controversy. I mean, there's the great thing about this skeleton, actually, because it is so complete, and because it was released with this huge package of this whole series of paper about the hand, the foot, the pelvis, and the skull. There was a lot of fodder there for debate and disagreement, and that's what's been happening for the last 10 years.
Now, when they talk about a chimp ancestor, a chimp-like ancestor, is this just because chimps are around and we know genetically that we're at least closely related to chimps? So it's just presumed. And is it possible that there was that all the way back, like from the beginning, that our ancestors were bipedal?
Well, I don't think many people would say, ancestors of the human lineage.
Right. Like when you look at Artie. Artie is the
Yeah.
oldest known full skeleton that we have of our ancestors. Right. If we go back, if we somehow or another found something that was 12 million years old, what if that thing was bipedal?
Okay. Well. Okay. So one problem is that the split between humans and chimps, it's probably not that old. So if you're at 12 million, you're probably somewhere before the human chimp split. I mean, there's a lot of like squish time in this. So and actually, I think as it happens, I think some of the estimates that are kind of furthest out are in fact 12 million, but somewhere between 6 and 12 million where humans and chimps split. It's kind of,
and what are they?
There's a lot of.
But they do think that once upon a time there was a split between humans and chimps. So if you go back far enough, you'll find a chimp or something like a chimp.
Well, you'll find an ancestor of a chimp, and then the big question is: does it look like a modern chimp,
right?
Or does it look like something you've never seen before, or does it look like something that's sort of a more primitive version of Ardipithecus? I mean, this is the great unknown. I mean, this is like, of course, another quest. For science.
So the discovery of Ardipithecus was really a monkey wrench into this whole idea of what we.
So that was what was one of the things that was quite controversial about it. And we haven't talked much about the discovery team that put this together, but they are they're very good scholars. They're very good at what they do, but they're also quite provocative. And which for me, of course, made them great material. But they don't present the skeleton and say, here's a physical description of the skeleton. Go ahead and make up your own minds. They presented it, and it said, here is a skeleton, and this is why you're wrong, and you're wrong, and you're wrong, and you're wrong. So it was a provocative series of papers with some stunning revelations, but some people in the research community did not take kindly to the mode of presentation. Let's say, because at one point, there's this huge research community that studied chimpanzees. Either it studied them in the field doing observational studies, or studied them in the lab to try to find clues about the origin of human locomotion or anything. I mean, chimps kind of became this all-purpose model. And so when the Artie team came along and told them they were all kind of barking up the wrong tree, there was a lot of consternation about that.
Episodes of the Joe Rogan Experience are now free on Spotify. That's right, they're free. From September 1st to December 1st, they're going to be available everywhere. But after December 1st, they will only be available on Spotify, but they will be free. That includes the video. The video will also be there. It'll also be free. That's all we're asking. Just go download Spotify. Much love. Bye-bye.